Welcome to the Gold Newsletter Podcast, your bank of knowledge of investments, economics, and geopolitics. Go to goldnewsletter.com for our publications and archives to increase your wealth monetarily and educationally.
I'm speaking with Chris Powell, the Secretary and Treasurer of GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. He is here at the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I guess his overarching theme is manipulation, intervention of and in the gold market, particularly suppressing the price. So one statement which really stood out from you that I heard yesterday was that you were very disappointed that a prominent gold promoter or gold bug was buying futures and ETFs. Why should people stay away from futures and ETFs in the gold market?
Because the metal that is in the main gold ETF GLD and the main silver ETF SLV is controlled by investment banks that are typically substantially short in the gold market. The silver ETF metal is controlled by Morgan Chase. The gold ETF metal is controlled by HSBC. Those are very active shorts in the gold market. Further, the gold and the silver ETFs are largely, for most practical purposes, just paper gold. An ordinary investor cannot redeem his shares in those ETFs for metal. You have to be what's called an authorized participant to redeem the shares for metal, and even then you can redeem shares for metal only in enormous amounts that are really not practical for most people to redeem. The ETF shares can be used to short the metals. It's just not a system for taking metal out of the banking system and putting upward pressure on the price. If you want to buy gold and silver in anticipation of higher prices, you have to remove it from the banking system and really from the financial system generally.
So there are, I guess, two main problems. One is that you cannot redeem your ETFs for gold, right? Second, it seems clear that there's a heck of a lot more paper gold in existence than real gold. How closely, this is showing some of my lack of knowledge here, does the ETF value of gold match the value of the physical metal? Let's say I want to go and buy an ounce of the physical metal. Do I have to pay much of a premium over what the paper gold goes for?
The nominal price of the ETFs is pretty close to the spot price of the metal. The problem is if you're putting money into the major ETFs, you're enabling the bullion banks to use that metal to short the market at critical points. You're giving them a store of metal to work with for price control. Now, not all ETFs are that way. Some of them, like the Sprott ETFs, you can redeem for metal in reasonable amounts, but the main ETFs are under the control of the bullion banks that are trying to keep prices under control. I think if you put your money into one of the main ETFs in anticipation of higher gold and silver prices, you might as well just flush it down the toilet.
Just to clarify for people, when you say that they will short, you're giving them the precious metal to short, you mean that they are leasing it to other people who would pay to be able to short it? How are they actually?
They can, those shares, like most shares, they can be shorted. You can go short a gold or silver ETF, but my main concern is those funds are under the control of bullion banks that are active participants with central banks in controlling the price. And I just don't think if you are buying the monetary metals in anticipation and hope for higher prices, you want to have anything to do with the banks that are keeping the price down.
One of the remarks you made that had me a little bit confused was the way that you said that the gold cartel suppresses the price. The reason why that's counterintuitive is that normally cartels seek to put up protectionism and inflate the price of whatever they have a cartel in. What is the motivation for those who have significant holdings of gold to suppress its price?
Well, because gold is and silver, the monetary metals, are the reciprocals of the prices of other assets. If you have an interest in government currencies, government bonds, and even most equities, that is an interest contrary to the usual behavior of the monetary metals. The gold price tends to go up when interest rates go down and when stocks go down, when currencies go down. The gold cartel, which really consists of central banks, governments, acting through bullion banks as their agents in the market, they are far more invested in currencies, bonds, and equities than they are in the monetary metals. But the monetary metals have a negative influence on those other assets. So the gold cartel is really trying to protect those other assets against a rising gold price, a rising silver price, which would indicate instability, negative conditions in those other markets that the cartel players are much more interested in.
I understand, yes. So basically you're saying that it's true they have these holdings, and it is counterintuitive that they would want those holdings to be less valuable, but those are just a small portion of what they own. So why don't you tell us a little bit about GATA then, about the website, what material you put out, so if people want to follow it, what they can look for.
Sure. Gold Antitrust Action Committee is a nonprofit educational and civil rights organization recognized by the Internal Revenue Service in the U.S. as a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, so donations to us are federally tax deductible. In the United States, we monitor the markets for evidence of manipulation of the monetary metals price and of surreptitious intervention and open intervention by central banks to defeat free markets in the monetary metals. We publish usually daily dispatches that might be of interest to people who are interested in what we're interested in. People can enroll on our mailing list at our internet site, gata.org. We have at our internet site a section of documentation of government and central bank intervention in the gold market. Really, it's a very extensive archive, admissions from central bankers of their intervention in the markets. We have records out of government archives about government policy to expel gold from the world financial system. We really a good clearinghouse of information on gold price suppression and government intervention in the markets.
Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you, Fergus.